guys, Learning with Rich here. In this video, we are going to talk about routing preferences and systems in Revit MEP. Okay, so we are going to continue our discussion for our sprinkler design. So last time we learned how to set up our project, like linking our architectural model, copying and monitoring levels, creating plan views, creating our sprinkler and coordination views. We also learned how we create our view template and something about the mechanical settings. Okay, so this time around, let's talk about routing preferences. So these are the two things that you need to know when it comes to adding pipe to our model. Actually, not only the fire protection, but also in sanitary, in your plumbing, on your mechanical piping. So you need to consider the routing preferences and systems. So if you are just starting piping here in Revit, so there are some instances wherein when you create your pipe, if you try to bend your pipe, Revit actually doesn't let you do that, okay? Because it has something to do with the routing preference. So I'm going to show you that later on, okay? So, so to those of you who do not know at first the routing preferences and systems, routing preferences control which type of pipe we're using with what kind of fittings, while the system control what fluid is in that pipe and how it appears in the model, so we can control the color. Okay, so both of these routing preferences and systems work with one another. Okay, so without further ado, so let's jump into our Revit. So as you can see here, I have my sample model here. So this is on the reflected ceiling plan. So this is just simple model, okay? It's just a box with some bunches of plumbing fixtures, but that is not what I need. So I'm just going to open the mechanical ceiling plan view here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the pipe here. So let's say, for example, for my piping, for my sprinkler design, or for my fire protection piping, what I want is to have a threaded pipe. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to create this kind of pipe here in Revit. Okay, so to start with, so from the Systems tab, so from the plumbing and piping, I'm going to select here the pipe. Okay, so I select the pipe, and then I want you to take note here on the properties. So as you can see, we have here the pipe types standard. So we have the standard type. Okay, so if I click the drop down arrow, so you can see here that you have chilled water pipe, you also have PVC, DWV pipe, and then you have the standard pipe. Okay, if I select the chilled water, as you will notice, the properties here will change. Like for example, here on the mechanical uh, category or parameter here, so we have the pipe segment. As you can see, the chilled water pipe segment is set to carbon steel schedule 40. Okay, and then there's the diameter 150. So if I'm going to change this to PVC, so let's check this out. So you will notice that it also changed here. So the pipe segment becomes polyvinyl chloride or PVC, and also the material here. So if I change this one to standard, so as you can see, the default here is copper A. Okay, so let's say for example, we are going to create a new pipe type just for us to start to talk about the routing preferences. Okay, so I'm going to create a new pipe type. So let's say I'm going to call this sprinkler pipe. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to select the type property here, edit type. So just click that one. And then after that, the type here is standard. So I'm going to duplicate that one. And then let me call this sprinkler. Okay, oops. Okay, is sprinkler. Okay, and then I'll just select here OK. And also, let's say for example, I want my sprinkler pipe to be threaded pipe. Okay, because by default, since I copied this from the standard, so I'm going to select OK first. I'm going to select OK, and then I'll start to create the pipe here. So let's say just outside the building. So I'm going to pick here 1, I'm going to pick another point here 2, and then I'm going to pick another point here 3. Okay? And then after that, I select here modify. So if I go to the 3D view, as you can see, okay, by the way, the reason why this one shows line, it's because of our detail level here. The detail level is medium, so I'm going to change that to fine so I can see how it looks like. And also, I'm going to change the visual style here to realistic. Okay, so this is how it looks like. So this is your standard pipe. Okay, so as you can see, it's not threaded pipe, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit my um, sprinkler pipe, which is this one. Because as you can see here, the pipe segment for that is copper A. So let's say, for example, for the sprinkler pipe, what I want is I want that to be carbon steel schedule 40. So how am I going to do that? Okay, so I also want to set up the diameter that I'll be using for the sprinkler. Okay, so let's say, for example, I'm not going to use here 6, 8, or 10. Okay, I do not want that to be available on the diameter for my carbon steel. Okay, I also do not want to have 200. Just for example. Okay, so how are you going to do that? So for you to be able to do that is, you just need to go to the type property again. And then after that, this is what I'm talking about. So this is the routing preferences. It specifies the segments and fittings to use with specific size ranges when routing pipe or duct. So as you can see, routing preferences is also applied to ducting. So not only on piping, but also on ducting. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select here the edit. I click that one. And then as you can see, by default, the pipe material here is set to copper A, okay, or the pipe segment. So I'm going to change this one. I click that and then click the drop down arrow here. And then I'm going to look for schedule 40 steel carbon. So I'm going to select that one out. And then like what I have said, for my carbon steel, here, the minimum size, I do not want to have the other values. So as you can see, the minimum size is already set to 15, and then the maximum size is already set to 200. So let's say I do not want to have 200. So I click the drop down. I'll change that to 150. All right. Okay, so each pipe segment contains different sizes of pipe here. So as you can see a while ago, on the carbon steel, or I mean on the copper A, if I click this, copper A minimum size, it's not only 15, but it's 6 mm. All right. But if I select here the carbon steel, schedule 40, the minimum size of carbon steel is 15. Okay. So if you are wondering how are you going to set up the minimum size and then the maximum size, so all you have to do is to go to the mechanical settings. Okay, just like what I have shown to you last time. Okay, so just a review, I'm going to cancel this one. Okay, I'm going to cancel this. Just a review. Your mechanical settings can be found here on the Systems tab. This one, Mechanical Settings, or you can also type MS. Click that, and then you go to the segments and sizes. This is what I'm talking about. You see our copper dash A here, the nominal size here is 600, and then the maximum size actually here is 200. That's the reason why. As you can see, it is used in size list and also it's used in sizing. So you have the ability here on the mechanical settings to control the sizes for a particular pipe segment. Okay, like for example, for copper A, so let's say, oh, I do not want to have 6, 8, and 10. So all you have to do is to just uncheck 6, 8, and 10, just like that, and then I select here OK. So if I go again to the pipe here, and then I change this to, is it chilled water? So chilled water, oh no, it's PVC, no, oh, it's standard. Okay, so for the standard, so as you can see, the material here or pipe segment is copper A. If I click the drop down arrow here, there is no 6, 8, and 10, because we already control that on our mechanical settings. Okay, so basically that's how it goes. So you can work out your mechanical settings. Now, going back to our pipe here, for our sprinkler, I'm going to select edit type. Okay, what I want here, going to my routing preferences, I want to change this to carbon steel, schedule 40. And then this is the minimum size and maximum size. I'm not going to change that, so I'll just use 15 and 200. Now, there are some instances wherein when you create your pipe, and then you suddenly bend to create an elbow, Revit doesn't allow you. Well, it's because there is no loaded family for the elbow, junction, cross, transition, union, flange, or cap. So that is happening when you use just a default template, like for example, architectural template. If I'm going to use that, I cancel this, cancel. So let's say I'll create a new template here. I'll use, for example, you do not know. I'm going to use architectural template. Okay, I'll select OK. So let's check out if there are fittings that is loaded in this project. So I'm going to select the pipe tool, and then for the edit type, let's check here the routing preferences. As you can see, there is no loaded fittings here. You see, there's none. That's why some of the user, when they try to create a pipe here, okay, so I can't see the pipe here. It's because it's turned on, probably turned off probably. So I go to the pipes. Okay, so let me just go to the 3D view because the templates here is not set up. So I go to the 3D view. So there's the pipe. So I'm going to pick one here. You see, if I try to create another point here, Revit doesn't allows me. Okay, so the reason why Revit doesn't allows you, it's because there is no loaded fittings on your routing preference. The elbow fittings is empty. Okay, so like what I have shown a while ago, if I go to the edit type, I go to the edit on my routing preferences, you can see that the elbow here is empty. So that is the reason why most of you, when you try to create a pipe, it doesn't create any elbow, or it doesn't create any P. It's because there's no fittings that is loaded on the routing preferences. So take note of this, especially if you're just starting to use Revit. There are some instances you are using different template. Okay, so you might encounter this one. Okay, so just a heads up. So now going back to our project, I'll just close this one, close this one. Okay, this one. So here's our sprinkler pipe. So I'm going to change that. So I go to the edit type, and then I select your edit. So like what I have said earlier, what I want is carbon steel, schedule 40, and then the elbow here. What I want is, I want to have a threaded one. So, but the problem here is there's no threaded fittings, right? So there's no threaded fittings here. So what are you going to do? Because currently if I click the drop down, there's no threaded, right? There's no threaded. So how are we going to do that? Okay, so for you to be able to do that, you need to load a family. Okay, so you need to load the family of the fittings for the threaded type. Okay, so to do that, so how to load that and where can you find that? Okay, so to load your fittings, threaded fittings, so all you have to do is to go to the Insert tab, and then you just need to go to Load Family, and then you look for, guess what? Pipe. Okay, just double click the pipe, and then you go to Fittings, and then we are working on the, no, I think instead of carbon steel, I'll try MI iron. Oh, a malleable iron. MI. Okay, so I double click this one. I go to class 150, class 150, and then there's the threaded fittings that I want. So I just double click that. There you go. So we now have here all the threaded fittings. So what I'm going to do is, Of course, you can select one by one here, but in my case, I'll just select all of this. So I click one, hold the shift, click the last one here, and then open. And then let us just wait for it until it loads completely our model. Okay, let's just wait. Okay, so now it's done. The next thing that we are going to do is let's try that out. Okay, so I go to the systems, I select the pipe here, and then after that, so there's the sprinkler. I click the type here, edit type, routing preferences, instead of copper. So I'll just use, huh. Okay, I'll just use carbon steel for that. Steel carbon. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'll change the elbow here. Take a look. If I click the drop down arrow, you will now see all the fittings that is loaded here. You see there's the threaded already. So I'm going to select the threaded. Okay, so the preferred junction type is T. And then for the junction here, I select here threaded MI class 150. So you get the idea. That one. Okay, what else? This one, coupling, concentric reducing threaded. So I'll select that one. Union, threaded. There's no flange for the threaded. Okay, for the cup, I select here threaded as well. Okay, you can also specify here the minimum size of the fittings that you want and also the maximum size of the fittings that you want. All right, so right after you select the fittings of your pipe, the next thing that we are going to do now here is we are going to select OK. Okay, select OK, and then probably I'll just rename this one. So I'll rename this sprinkler. That's a threaded type. Okay, sprinkler threaded. Right, so I just select here OK, and then I'll select OK. And then let's go check out our pipe here. So I'll just create one here. So I click here, and then I click another point here. Then I click another point, and then let's say I want to go up. So I'm going to change the elevation here. So let's say I'll type 3000. Then after that, I apply. There you go. Okay, and then I'll just select modify, and then let's go check out the 3D view of that one. 3D, let me just delete this one. And there you go. See? Okay, so basically it's now threaded. Okay, so all the pipe that I'll be creating is threaded. So that's the representation of a threaded uh, piping in Revit. Okay, so don't forget that. So you need to consider the routing preference of your model. Okay. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about, so after learning our routing preferences and what it can do for you, the next thing that we are going to do is the system. Okay, so how are we going to configure the system of our project? Okay, so it's time to talk about system. So if we know the physical type of pipe, just like what we did, we know that it's a threaded pipe, we know that it's a carbon steel, okay, and the specific fittings that we are going to use, just like that one, the threaded one, we can direct our attention to what is actually in the pipe. So what are the liquid or fluid that will run through on that pipe? And also what color and line type we want to see them, okay, and then the material, okay. So for this topic, the next topic that we're going to talk about is about configuring our system. Okay, configuring our system. So every time you create a pipe in Revit, as you will notice, if I select the pipe here, okay, if I go to the properties here, notice that there's a system type here. By default, as you can see, the default type here is hydronic supply. But if I'm going to click the drop down arrow here, you will notice that we have several system types here, including our fire protection here. So we have dry, other, pre-action, or wet fire protection. And there are other HIPS fire protection system that you can create here in Revit. So these are just the default fire protection, but if you want to create, you can do that. Okay? So in Revit, it is very important to specify what system that you are creating, what system type of the pipe that you are creating. Okay, so that's why every time you create your piping, okay, so let me just do it here. So I select the pipe here. Before you do your piping, make sure you select the correct type here. Like for example, since you are doing fire protection, so let's say I'm going to create a fire protection wet. So I select that one. There you go. So that is the system that we are going to create. I'm going to create now one here. Okay, so this is the type, the pipe. I'm going to pick another point here. Okay, I'm going to pick another point here. And there you go. I just select here, modify. Okay, so if I select this one, you will notice that the system type of that is fire protection wet. Okay, so that is the proper way of doing your piping. Now, let's say, for example, you want to create another type of fire protection. Okay, so for you to be able to do that, you need to go to Project Browser. And then after that, you go to the families here. Okay, and then you look for pipe system piping systems, you just expand that and then expand the piping system. As you can see, these are the different types of pipe system in Revit. Okay, so it's already created for you. Now, if you want to add another piping system, it's easy to do that. Okay, so all you have to do is to just simply right click one of the piping system here. Like for example, I want to create another fire protection wet, so I'm going to right click that one, and then there's an option here, duplicate. Okay, and then I can rename this one. Okay, I can rename, and then let's say this is, I'll just type capital letters. Okay, wet, something like this. Enter. Okay, and the next thing that I want to do is for my fire protection wet, what I want is I want this to be colored. So let's say I want this to be colored red. Okay, so I want the system for the piping system fire protection wet. This one, I want every pipe that I create will become colored red. So how are you going to do that? So to do that, you can right click this, and then you can go to the type properties. There you go. There's the type properties. And then again, you can also specify the materials here. You can specify the material. You can click the ellipsis button, and then you just select the material. So like for example, this is steel. Okay, so there's a steel. It's a carbon steel. So I'm going to select the carbon steel material, and then I'll select here OK. Okay, and aside from that, so there is this graphic overrides for the fire protection wet system. So I can select here edit. So I click that one, and then there's the pattern. Okay, so there's the pattern, line pattern. Okay, so you can click the drop down arrow. So let's say, for example, for my fire protection wet, what I want is center 1/4 inch pattern. Okay, so I select that one, and then I want to change the color here. So I click the color. So let's say I want that to be something red, and then I select here OK. And then for the line weight, just going to I'll just use default. Okay, so I'll just use no override. Okay, so I'll just select here OK. I'll leave it as it is for the calculation. You can specify the identity data here. You can put the type image, but you don't need to do that. You can put an abbreviation here. Okay, so let's say this is wet. And then you can also specify your comment. You can put there. You can put the URL. You can also put description here, right? And aside from that, you can also specify here the rise and drop symbol of your pipe. of your fire protection wet. Okay, so two line drop symbol. So if it is two line drop symbol, if it's go down, the symbol will becomes yin yang. If for two line rise symbol, so it is an outline. If it is a single line, just like this one, it's single line. If it drops, this is the symbol, bend three-fourth circle. If it rise, outline, outline, etc., etc. So of course, you can change that if you want. You can click the ellipsis button and then you can specify here the symbol. So as you can see, there's the preview of the symbol that you are going to select, right? So you can just select from here. So I'm just telling you that you can override the settings of the system here. So let's say, for example, this is the one that I want. This is the settings. So I'm going to select here OK. Now, the next thing that you're going to do after creating the piping system that you want. Okay, so take note that you can also apply this to your plumbing system, to your sanitary system, to your mechanical system. Okay, you can add as many piping systems as you want. Okay, so let's say I'm going to create now my fire protection wet system. So I'm going to select the pipe here. All right, so I still want my threaded pipe. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that the system type that I'll be using here is the one that I created. As you can see, it's now available here. Okay, on the drop down arrow, so there's my fire protection, open and close parenthesis, wet. So I click that one, and then after that, there's the pipe segment, there's the diameter, there's the elevation. Okay, so let's say I'm just going to create here, going to click one, I'm going to click another point here. Okay, I'm going to click another point here. I'm going to pick another point here. So let's say I'm going down. Let's say 2,500. Then I'm going to pick another point here. There you go. And then I'm going to pick another point. Let's say, for example, it goes up. I'll change this to 3,000 again. And then I'm going to pick another point here. And then I'm going to pick another point here. And then I just select here modify. As you can see, the line type here now reflects based on the settings that we have selected. As you can see, the color also is red and also the symbol here. So if you remember, if I go back to the type properties of our fire protection wet, you can see that for a single line rise symbol, okay, so the outline, that's the symbol outline. So what does it look like? So that's the outline. Okay, so that's the outline, right? So I'm now going to select here, okay, okay. Now if I change this to for a fine detail level, you can now see here the symbol, right? See, how about we do a shaded? So that's how it looks like, shaded view. Okay, see, it's pretty cool, right? If I go to the 3D view, this is the one. There you go. You see, there's the outline. It's colored red. Okay, so if we go back to the ceiling plan, so this is how it looks like. Okay, so I change it back to coarse. So this is now how it looks like. Okay. All right. So basically, that's how your routing preferences and systems work. So it's not that difficult. So this is very important because before you do your piping, you need to set up your routing preferences, your pipe type, and also you need to set up your piping system. So hopefully you learned something from this video. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions, you can put it on the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.